So when my cousin Joe Richard was executed for murder in the late 1950s in New Brunswick, the last hanging in New Brunswick under what they call legislative law across Canada, the execution was botched. The weight of his body was not coordinated correctly. But what happened to Joe didn't happen to this guy. This guy had his head cut off because the rope was too long. So today we're talking about a guy that's been lionized and covered in many, many movies and TV shows. A person known as Blackjack Tom Ketchum. Now, Thomas Edward Ketchum, born Halloween in San Sabo County, Texas, in 1863, was executed in 1901 for attempted train robbery. His execution was botched. He was decapitated because the executioner used a rope that was too long. But for photos, they reattached his head via, a local seamstress. No joke. Now, Tom Ketchum was born in San Saba County, Texas. He left Texas in 1890, possibly after committing a crime. He worked as a cowboy into the Pecos River Valley of New Mexico, where by 1894 his older brother Sam had joined him. Blackjack and a group of others were named as the robbers of the Atchison, Topeka, and the Santa Fe Railway that was en route to Deming, New Mexico territory in 1892 with a large payroll aboard. The gang supposedly robbed a train just outside of Nutt, New Mexico territory, a water station 20 miles north of Demon. Blackjack and his gang would offer visit a ranch of Herb Bassett near Browns Park, Colorado, which was known to have done business with several outlaws of the day, having supplied them with beef and fresh horses. Herb was the father of female outlaws Josie Bassett and Ann Bassett, who were girlfriends of several members of Butch Cassidy's Wild Bunch gang. One of Ann Bassett's boyfriends, a future Wild Bunch gang member, Ben Kilpatrick, began riding with Blackjack's gang about that time. Outlaw Bronco Bill Walters, later known for his legend of the hidden loot near Sullivanville, Arizona, is also believed to have begun riding with the gang at this time. Now, the second major crime attributed to Tom was the murder of a neighbor, John Jap Powers, in Tom Green County, Texas, on December 12, 1895. However, information at the Sutton Historical Society in Texas says that Will Carver and Sam Ketchum were the ones actually accused of killing Powers and Knickerbocker. Fearing the law, they closed their joint saloon and gambling venture in San Angelo and hit the outlaw trail. Within 6 months, Mrs. Powers and her lover, J.E. Wright, were arrested for the murder, but it was too late for Carver and the Ketchums. Now, by late 1895, outlaw Harvey Kid Curry Logan and his brother Lonnie were members of Blackjack's gang. Now, however, in early 1896, a dispute concerning their share of the robbery loot prompted the Currys to leave the gang. It is alleged that Ketchum was involved with the February 1st, 1896 disappearance and presumed murders of Albert Jennings Fountain and his son Henry of Las Cruces, New Mexico. In early June 1896, after working for the famed Bell Ranch in New Mexico, Tom and Sam Ketchum and possibly others robbed a combined store and post office at Liberty, New Mexico, northwest of present-day Tusamacari. According to contemporary accounts, the Ketchums rode into Liberty on June 12th and purchased supplies. That evening, a thunderstorm began, and he returned to the store, worn by Morris and Levy Herstein, who invited him to take shelter. Now, returning the next morning to open his store, Levi found that both the store and post office had been burglarized. After gathering a posse, Herstein set out on the outlaws' trail. The posse, composed of just 4 men, took the 2 outlaws by surprise in the Plaza Largo Arroyo, where a shootout immediately began. Seconds later, both Levi and Hemingildo Gallegos lay dead. Seeing his comrades fall, Anastasio Borgade turned his horse and rode out of the arroyo. Placido Gourlay, the 4th member of the posse, also survived to give an account. Gourlay said he'd been struck by a 30-30 bullet that knocked him out of his horse. He landed on the ground with a blow that knocked the wind out of him. He lay in a semi-conscious state as Blackjack Ketchum emptied his rifle into the bodies of Levi and Hermenegildo. Tom and Sam Ketchum were never tried for the killings at the Plaza Largo incident, but Morris Herstein reportedly was present to witness the hanging of Blackjack Ketchum in 1901. Now, Morris Herstein moved to Clayton shortly after killing in Liberty and finally in the Texas Panhandle area. This is memorialized by the inscription of a shoe brush, Herstein's Clayton, New Mexico, Darrell Hart, Texas. It is from Herstein's, it's correct. Morris was the father of Albert Herstein, who began one of the founders of the Big 3 Industries in Houston, and is a man who helped the museum in Clayton to become a reality years later. Now, following this event, Thomas Ketchum joined other outlaws of the hole-in-the-wall gang and continued a life of crime, focusing on train robberies. Although when not robbing trains, they worked for several ranches in New Mexico and Texas. Several other notable outlaws operated on the hole-in-the-wall gang, which was a hideout for numerous outlaw gangs which operated separately. The famous Wild Bunch gang, led by Butch Cassidy and Ely Lay, operated out of there. One Wild Bunch gang member, Kid Curry, along with his brother Lonnie, had probably previously written with Blackjack Ketchum and his gang. He and Ketchum did not like each other, and Ketchum avoided Curry as much as possible. Kid Curry would eventually kill 9 lawmen over the course of the next 8 years. Now, during this time, Tom Ketchum was once identified mistakenly as Blackjack Christian, another outlaw, and that became his nickname as well. 3 of the train robberies that the gang committed were near the same location, between Folsom and Des Moines, New Mexico territory. This was at the point where the old Fort Union Wagon Road crossed the Colorado and Southern Railroad tracks near Twin Mountain. Now, on September 3rd, 1897, he committed the first robbery at Twin Mountain. Then on July 11th, 1899, the gang, without Blackjack, robbed a train again at Twin Mountain. After the robbery, Sam and several unknown gang members, in addition to Wild Bunch gang members Will Carver and William Lay, headed for the mountains southwest of Raton, New Mexico territory. The next day, a posse consisting of Sheriff Ed Farr of Hurlefano County, Colorado, Special Agent W.H. Reno of the Colorado and Southern Railroad, and 5 deputies found their trail and tracked them into Turkey Creek Canyon near Cimarron, New Mexico, or Cimarron. There, the posse engaged them in a gun battle. Sam Ketchum and 2 deputies were wounded seriously, but the gang escaped. Now, Sam Ketchum's wounds slowed the intended escape, and he made it only short distance from the initial shootout. Several members of the posse cornered the Ketchum gang a few days later, still in the same area of the territory. Deputy Love and Sheriff Farr engaged the outlaws in another gun battle, resulting in both Love and Farr being killed, while the posse wounded at least 2 unknown members of the gang. Sam Ketchum escaped, but was found a few days later by Special Agent Reno at the home of a rancher, where he was arrested. Now, Sam Ketchum was taken to Santa Fe Territorial Prison, where he died from his gunshot wounds. He was buried in the old Oddfellow Cemetery, now the Fairview Cemetery on Carrillos Road in Santa Fe. Now, Ellie or Eliza William Ellsworth Lay was born November 25th, 68 in Mount Pleasant, Ohio. Lay had come out west of Denver and became an outlaw after mistakenly believing he had killed a man. Jailed for life after killing of Sheriff Farr, the Folsom robbery, he was released in 1906. He returned to Alma, New Mexico territory and lived there for a few years. He stayed with Lewis and Walter Jones, who in 1904 built a large merchandise store in Alma. He died aged 65 in L.A. on November 10, 1934. Now, on August 16, 1899, Ketchum, supposedly knowing nothing the July 11th holdup, which ended the death of his brother Sam, single-handedly attempted to rob the same train again at the same place, in the same way that he and Sam and others had robbed it just a few weeks earlier. The train conductor, Frank Harrington, saw Tom approaching the moving train. He recognized him, grabbed a shotgun, and shot Tom in the arm, knocking him off his horse. The train continued. The next day, a posse came out and found Tom beside the tracks, badly wounded. He was transported to medical facilities at Trinidad, Colorado, but his right arm had to be amputated. He was nursed back to health and then sent to Clayton, New Mexico, for a trial. Now, at the trial, Ketchum was convicted of attempted train robbery and sentenced to death. He was the only person ever hanged in Union County, New Mexico territory, now Union County, New Mexico. He was also the only person who suffered capital punishment for the offense of felonious assault upon a railway train in New Mexico territory, which did not become a state until 1912. Later, that law was found to be unconstitutional. Now, the Ketchum was executed by hanging in Clayton on April 26, 1901, but no one in the town had any experience with the procedure. The combination of too long a rope, Ketchum's significant weight gain while in jail, and a mass imbalance due to the amputation of his arm caused him to be decapitated when he fell through the trap door. Ketchum's last words were, "Goodbye, please dig my grave very deep. All right, hurry up." Now, account of the event from Sheriff Salome Garcia detailed the scene. He walked firmly up the steps, saying as he went up, "Dig my grave deep, boys." Stepping onto the trap door, he asked for the black cap, and it was placed over his head, but it had to be removed to permit the rope to be placed on his neck. And while he delayed somewhat, he became impatient and said, "Let her go, boys." The sheriff cut the trigger of a rope with a hatchet and his body shot down with almost 215 pounds of weight. Everyone within or without the stockade held their breath, but their hearts gave a great bound of horror when it was seen that his head had been severed from his body by the fall. His body alighted squarely upon his feet, stood for a moment, swayed and fell, and then great streams of red blood spurted from his severed neck, as if it shamed the very ground upon which it poured. The head rolled aside, and the rope, released, bounded high and fell with a thud upon the scaffold from whence it came. Again, now that's some writing. A popular postcard was made showing the body. Afterwards, his head was sewn back on for the body for viewing, and he was interred at the Clayton Cemetery. Now, ironically, Western actor Jack Elam portrayed Ketchum in an episode of the 1955 syndicated TV series Stories of the Century. Now, Howard Duff also played Ketchum in the 1957 American Western film Blackjack Ketchum, Desperado. Rhodes Reason played Ketchum in a 1959 episode of the American Western TV series Frontier Doctor. And Martin Cove played Ketchum in a 1994 TV movie, The Gambler 5, Playing for Keeps. So, Blackjack Ketchum. An interesting story, but not executed for all the murders he committed, but executed for train robbery, which makes some sense and no sense at all. But we're going to do a series of podcasts over the next couple of weeks on some of what he called the top 10 gunfighters of the era that are not Jesse James or different people, but his connection to Hole in the Wall gang and his connection to train robberies. If you look at the Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, they're robbing Butch and Sundance are robbing the train the same way twice. Now, was that inspired by Blackjack? Probably so, but that's for the dawn of time. So if you like what you're doing here with our True Crime Podcast, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share.